Good evening. It's Wednesday, the 15th of February, and it's time for the news on RIK2. United Nations Envoy on Cyprus, Espan Ida, said that the climate between the two Cypriot communities is not the ideal one following rising tensions over a vote in Parliament to make a short mention in scores of a referendum on Enosis, with Greece held 69 years ago. Ida added, however, after a meeting with President Anastasiadis this morning, that he is confident that problems can be overcome. He later had a meeting with Turkish Cypriot leader Mustafa Kemal. He said that the latest developments are causing concern because despite considerable progress achieved up until now, the leaders need wide support by their communities to proceed on the last mile of the process, the most difficult one, towards a solution agreement. But he said that he had been encouraged by the meetings he had in Athens and Ankara on the issues of security and guarantees. He said the issue had not been resolved and that creative thinking outside the box is called for. Ida also said that they had the support of international players and that things are closer to an agreement than a month before. Asked when the Geneva conference will be reconvened, he said that this has been decided. But what is more important is what to do in Geneva. There is still much work to be done in Geneva to have a successful conference, Ida concluded. The Turkish government has used the Enosis vote in the Cyprus parliament to raise tension and justify its demands for a right to meddle in Cyprus after a solution. The Turkish Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the vote will not help the negotiating process and the safeguarding of the security of what it called the two peoples of Cyprus. It added that statements by Akenci and the so-called Turkish Cypriot Parliament are in line with the expectations and concerns of the Turkish Cypriot side. The ministry also dismissed as unjustified and without any importance the position by President Anastasiadis that the vote is about a plain mention of an historical fact. It also said that the equation of the vote to the celebrations by Turkish Cypriots of the 1974 Turkish invasion of Cyprus by Turkish troops and the declaration of a so-called state is unacceptable. The Turkish Foreign Ministry said that the 1974 Turkish invasion, in which over 6,000 Greek Cypriots died and over 1,500 went missing, was a peace operation that put an end to what it called a human tragedy having its roots in the Enosis dream of the Greek Cypriots. The drivers of container transport lorries once again blocked Limassol port today, only hours after a deal reached last night to speed up work and beat backlog pile-up of containers and goods. The drivers said that the company, which is managing the container terminal at the port, did not keep promises it gave last night. More than 300 lorries lined up in the western part of the port, blocking access to the container terminal, leading to long traffic jams. At last night's meeting, it was agreed that the terminal will operate on a 24-hour basis and that 5 additional loading cranes would be added to the existing 6. Transport Minister Marios Dimitriadis had earlier today called on the terminal operator Eurogate to immediately comply with its commitments and take action to resolve the situation. Yorgos Lambos, a spokesman of the truckers' union, said indignant drivers decided to cut off the entrance, claiming that the situation outside the port further deteriorated instead of improving. He did not exclude the possibility of raising the issue of compensation by the operator and the state for the undue delays. The Secretary-General of the Cyprus Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Marios Tsiagis, said disruption at the port was already taking its toll on the economy as importers are running out of stock or raw materials. Russian jets pounded rebel-held areas of the Syrian city of Daraa late yesterday for a second day as Syrian government troops fought with rebels near a strategic border crossing with Jordan. A rebel source said there were at least 30 Russian sorties thwarting new rebel gains. Rebel groups on Sunday stormed the heavily garrisoned Manshia district, but the Syrian army said they had failed to make gains and its troops had inflicted many casualties. State media said the armed insurgents showered civilian districts of the southern city with mortars, wrecking many homes. Meanwhile, talks on the Syrian crisis involving Russia, Iran and Turkey that were due to start in the Kazakh capital Astana today have been delayed by 1 day. Syrian rebels have threatened to boycott the talks, accusing Russia of failing to get Damascus to comply fully with a ceasefire or take any confidence-building steps. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres named a new head of UN peacekeeping operations and retained 3 senior UN officials as part of his campaign to reform the world body's peace and security programs. Guterres named French diplomat Jean-Pierre Lacroix to a 1-year term as the head of UN peacekeeping operations as of April the 1st, after Hervé Lansou has declined an offer to stay on. Lacroix will be in charge, among others, for the peace operations of the United Nations in Cyprus, where one of the oldest serving peace forces established in 1964 is serving. The Secretary-General said the personal moves were made in anticipation of an internal review of peace and security operations that will be completed in June and then shared with UN member states. A bank has consented to the suspension of the eviction of a single-parent family in Limassol today following a strong protest by people outside the house. The bank had obtained an eviction order so as to put the property up for sale after the occupants failed to repay their loan. People belonging to the movement against foreclosures, single-parent families, parliamentary deputies and supporters of the family gathered outside the house in the morning to prevent the execution of the eviction order. Lawyer Christos Boutsiouros had filed a court petition requesting postponement of the eviction, questioning why the bank had not sold the property before the death of the husband. The lawyer said that the widow and her daughter had to live on a €500 pension. Now for the weather forecast. Partly cloudy weather will persist tomorrow, leading to local rain mostly in the east and north, which may later spread to other areas. Snow is expected over the Troodos peaks. Winds will be light to moderate, easterly to northeasterly, force 3 to 4, becoming fresh over windward areas, force 5. The sea will be generally slight and moderate in windward areas. Temperatures will reach 15 Celsius inland, 17 in coastal regions and 5 over the mountains. Cloudy weather at times will lead to local rain over the next 2 days, with temperatures dropping on Friday and going up considerably on Saturday. The depth of snow is 45 centimetres on Mount Olympus and 35 over the Troodos Square. That's all from us here. Join us tomorrow for more news in English. Have a very good evening.